Inspiration. How do we find inspiration in our photography? Especially landscape photography, where sometimes we just go over the same old things and we just get stale. Well, if you want to find out some inspiration of how I do it, stick around. I'm going to share some photos, tell you some stories behind the photos, and hopefully give you a bit of inspiration. Welcome to the channel. I am John Von Hesser, an award-winning photographer from Melbourne, Australia, and today I wanted to share a video on inspiration. I think sometimes we fall into that habit as photographers. We lose interest in, I just can't be bothered going out, don't know where to shoot, it's all the same places. I've been there, I've seen that. For me to go somewhere else, I've got to drive a million miles. Well, today I just wanted to share some of the photos. Some of these photos I've won international awards for, and some are just great photos that I just love. So without going on anymore, I thought I'd show you the first photo. Right, first photo is grandeur. This photo here, there's something very beautiful about it. Now, it was right on when golden hour in. What I've found with photography is that a lot of people, they go to shoot sunsets because they're beautiful sunsets in the sky and crimson colors and reds. But the amount of times that they don't look behind them and see some incredible vistas. This was one of those moments, and I happened to be on a rock shelf, which does go a fair way out. I'm very careful when I do this because I don't like turning my back to the ocean, especially in these areas where I go shooting, because it can be very, very dangerous and you get rogue waves. But this was one of these days where I went down, I was like, gee, it's blue skies. Every landscape photographer's nightmare, or if you like blue skies, blessing in disguise. I just happened to get there and looking around thinking blue skies, not much going on. And I just turned around and the light was just absolutely beautiful. It was so filtered and it just captured on the rock, and the rock face was already sandstone, obviously. And it just lit up with these beautiful golden tones, oranges, and then just below it was the seaweed that was green. And I just thought the contrast of this shot with, you know, the breakup through the photo, you can see here, got the green at the bottom, then this beautiful yellow sandstone, and then of course the golden, and then with the blue skies. So I just thought that this was a very, very beautiful photo, and I shot this on 50mm prime, my Nikon 50mm 1.8S lens, which I would honestly say is definitely my sharpest lens. So also I will at the end of this video put these pictures back up with what the shutter speed, the aperture, and the ISO. So that is the first, and I call that grandeur. This one here is a beautiful shot, and I love this, and obviously a long exposure. This was a very, very special day, and this was shot at the same time where I actually shot a pano that actually won me first prize in the IPA, the International Photography Award last year. But the thing that I love about this photo is the contrast between the ocean and the golden tones on the horizon. This was epic. Like, I still to this day, when it's amazing when you capture something beautiful and you go, wow. When I was going out to shoot this, it was a storm. I've got to the car park and the rumbling and everything, and I'm like, and I had my son, my middle son with me, and I said, mate, what do you reckon? Go out and shoot? And he's like, yeah. And you know, we could hear the thunder was off in the distance, and obviously there wasn't lightning flashing around the skies and stuff like that. So we said, all right, let's go. And this is after the storm had passed, and you can see how beautiful that light is after a storm. But this one I call Tranquil because I just love it. I just felt that it was just so beautiful and tranquil, and I just love how these golden rays here just capture in here in the middle of the photo, and then the rocks with the beautiful water just running off them like little waterfalls. Yeah, so that was one of those situations where the thunderstorm was there, but ironically there wasn't any wind, and the waves, there was actually some guys surfing out there. The waves were just absolute perfect, you know, right to left waves, and I thought to myself, gee, these guys are going to be absolutely just in heaven. And they were catching waves and riding waves and stuff. So that was always good to watch as well. And one of their mates was on the rock a bit further down on the right, and he was taking photos of them. I thought I would share another one, which is this one here. And this was a really, really interesting time when I took this shot, because what happened is I had rocked up very early, probably an hour and a half before golden hour, and I was sitting there shooting, and I wasn't very inspired by the clouds or anything like that, but it was nice, and I was enjoying myself and I was relaxing. And anyway, the color was really intense, and you could see the color starting to dip down a bit and just losing a bit of intensity. And this young kid turned up with his camera, with his photo tele lens, and with his mate, and quickly set up next to me and was like, started shooting with his mate. And I thought to myself, gee, you've missed the best of it. And he's like doing his thing, and then he said to his mate, oh, I think we got here a bit late. Anyway, you could see he was a bit disheartened, and he walked off. And anyway, I happened to come around off the rock, and I was walking around, and he bumped into me and goes, oh, you a photographer too? And I said, oh yeah, I do a bit of photography. And we got chatting, and he was a really, really nice kid. And he goes, oh, have you got any of your photos that you could show me? And I said, oh. So I pulled out my phone and showed him some of my photos, and he's like, oh wow. He goes, your photos are amazing. He goes, can I follow you on Instagram and all that? And it's like, yeah, if you want to follow someone that doesn't really do much on Instagram, go for it. But while we were talking, and I just encouraged him and said, look, it's always good to get there an hour before, and give yourself plenty of time. And as I was talking, this shot here just happened to present itself into the blue hour, and the color was just exquisite. And I remember just going, give us a sec. He goes, you're gonna get your camera out again, aren't you? And I go, you're absolutely right. So he goes, fair dinkum. I'm telling you, that was just incredible, and I love it. It's very simplistic, but there's something about it that is very, very beautiful and peaceful, and I actually call it Zen. That's the little story behind that one. What else have I got here? This one is something completely different, and this is some architectural photography that I took when I was in Adelaide in South Australia. And this is the footbridge that goes across the River Torrens. I took this right on dusk. The light for that last couple of days had been absolutely incredible. I'd been down the beach prior to that, where I took a beautiful shot down at Henley Beach of the jetty. But I was looking at it and I thought, yeah, it's a nice shot. And then I thought, wonder if it would work as a black and white. I turned it into a black and white, and it just came alive. And I really, really love this shot. And I just think that it once again just highlights how sometimes taking a shot that looks okay and turning into black and white can be a bit more of a, wow, that's a beautiful shot. But I love the reflections on this photo. But I call this the elegant lady, because I just think it's very elegant looking. So that was the story behind that shot. This one, speaking of storms, this shot was an incredible night, and I happened to had a friend that wanted to come out and do some photography, and I said to him, well mate, I'm heading down to the local beach down around the corner from my place. There's a storm coming through tonight. I don't know if you want to come out. And he's like, yeah, we'll come out. I'll bring my drone. I'm like, okay. And so I got there a bit early, and anyway, I was like shooting away, and I could see the storm in the distance, and I'll show you exactly what it looked like. And it was a huge cell, and this is what it was looking like. So this is what was coming in, and I call this the coming. This actually won me second prize in the International Photography Awards for Special Pano this year. So that was I get really humbled when I win an award like that, because the work of some of the other photos that I see, and I think to myself, man, they are equally as good. And I don't know what judges see and how they judge their photos, but for me, it's a standard that I enter these awards, because I think I like to challenge myself, and I like to challenge myself up against people that also are presenting very good photos. And I'm not saying they present the best photo in the world, but they are of a very, very high standard, especially the landscape stuff that I love. And I look at it and I go, wow. But going back to this story, this was the cell that was coming in, and right down here, this is rain. So this is a big band of rain, but the sun was filtering through, and there was ray beams coming through, and I'm looking going, oh my, that is a big storm front coming. And so I'm saying to my mate, you better get here soon if you want to fly your drone, because once that storm hits, you won't be flying your drone. And anyway, eventually that rolled in, and then lightning started, and all all of a sudden, you know, we started capturing lightning bolts left, right, and center. And this is probably the most balanced, but I did capture some other ones that were really abstracty. Like there's one that I call the spider's web, because it shot across the sky sideways and did this really abstract thing, which is probably what I love about this is that these lightning bolts came down together and they were just like, and I'm like, click, done. And because I had a long exposure. But when this storm hit, I tell you, oh man, I have never been hit by a storm. It must have been like 80-kilometer winds, and the sand and everything just flicked up. And this day was extremely hot. I think in America you would call it Fahrenheit, which is probably, it would have been probably 105 degree. It was nearly 40 degrees here in Melbourne. It's 39.9 degrees or something. So it was extremely hot, and shorts and a singlet, and then next minute that storm hit like a bomb, and I remember the sand and just everything was like, and I'm like, and it stung my legs. It was like being sandblasted, and I'm like, holy crap. And I'm holding onto my camera thinking, oh, I think we might have to pack up. Everyone at the beach, they just got up and left, and everyone was gone. And then all of a sudden the wind dropped off. So it was obvious that front, the wind dropped off, and then all of a sudden it went back to just being gentle breeze, and then all of a sudden the lightning and flashing. And I can honestly say that I haven't seen an electrical storm like that in Melbourne for years. It was intense. Like there was flashes going off everywhere, and you know the lightning bolts were in the distance. And I said to my friend, we'll just keep an eye on it, because that thing is rolling towards us, and you don't want to die for a photo. I call this one Zeus's playground, because I just felt like Zeus was just throwing down lightning bolts everywhere. So I hope if you are getting anything out of these stories and these photos, then please subscribe. I'd love you to subscribe to the channel and be part of the Shooting at Raw family, because you know I'm all about helping people and doing what I can to help you. And if you can help me with photography, man, I don't know everything, and I'm self-taught, and I just love doing what I do, and I take in what people say and I try things. And I make mistakes, and I've made hundreds of mistakes. I've made mistakes where I've taken photos and it's soft and they're out of focus, and I think, man, that's such a beautiful photo, and it's soft. You might be able to relate to that and go, yep, I know what you mean. So I make plenty of mistakes, and I'll show you this next shot was soft, and here it is. And this, when it's this size, and it's a beautiful shot, it was absolutely mind-blowing that we actually ended up capturing the Southern Lights like this in Melbourne, Australia. And yes, we did have to get out of the light pollution, and it was funny. My wife said to me, oh, you should go out tonight. Apparently there's going to be some lights in the sky. I go, what do you mean lights in the sky? Oh, those coloured lights? And I said, what, the Southern Lights? And she goes, yeah. And I said, really? I said, well, I might go down and have a look. And I remember driving down, and I thought the great thing would be there'll be no one there. Well, how mistaken was I? I drove down there. It was like peak hour traffic, and I'm like, what the hell is it? And I thought, surely not everyone's going. Yep, everyone was going down. I thought, I'm going to go to my spot because there'll be no one there. No, there was everyone there. People love to get a shot and stuff, but there was people with their iPhones, and they're all like holding up the light, taking photos, and and obviously people there that were landscape photographers too, that were trying to capture some great shots. And people being people and trying to capture things because it's a very rare occurrence, I get it, but I took this shot, and I took it as a pano, and it was right at the peak of when it really went off. And but when I zoom in, everything's just a little soft. And I thought I'll blow this up to be big, but no, I can't. So I only have it as a reminder to myself how beautiful it was. So, but I do keep an alert out for auras, because we've had the sun is at a very peak moment at the moment. Solar maximus, they call it, which only happens every 11 years. It shifts from solar minimum to solar maximum, and the result is solar flares towards Earth, which ends up with the Southern Lights. Bit of education, I don't know. That's what I've been told it is. So I also make mistakes. And speaking of mistakes, this next photo is a reminder to myself of never saying, oh, I can't be bothered going out and shooting today, because this shot is a reminder of how beautiful the sky was. And the only reason I've got a photo of the sky was because I was looking out my window. Before that, I was going, yeah, the sky might look like it's going to be all right. Maybe I should go down and do a shoot. And I thought, I can't be bothered. And then when I started looking at that, I was just like, oh, you're kidding. Fair dinkum, you've got to be joking. I cannot believe that I am not down the beach, which is only 3 minutes away. And I was just like, I am missing out on one of the most beautiful skies that I've ever seen. And I thought, you know what? I got my camera and I shot through the window because we've got a double-story house. And I'm shooting over the top of the houses, and I'm just shooting over the top, shooting over the top, shooting over the top, and I'm like, man, this is incredible. And I thought, I'm going to keep this photo as a reminder to never ever say, I can't be bothered going out and shooting today. So there's one that I missed. Which could have been just an incredible photo with a great foreground. So that inspires me to make sure that I'm going out and continuing to shoot. So I think I'm going to leave it there. I think I've rambled on enough over that. I certainly hope that those photos have given you some inspiration and inspired you. And, I'll leave all these photos at the end. I would love to know in your comments which photo you loved the most and the reasons why. If you are getting anything out of my photos, please subscribe, like, tell a friend. I'm John Von Hesse, award-winning photographer from Melbourne, Australia. It's all about inspiring each other, lifting each other up, I think, in life. But as always, John Von Hesse, stay safe, keep shooting it raw, and be kind. Oh, and I almost forgot. Some very big news coming on the next video. Yeah, I want to tell you, but I want to do a video on it. So stick around, tune into the next episode, and that'll be in the video. So see ya.